My name is Maurice Lizarazu, Client Development Team Lead here at Tatari. And today we'll be talking about Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And in true Tatari fashion, before we talk about anything, we do say a little bit about what we're streaming on TV. And I am currently streaming The Bear, 3 years late, on Hulu. And I'll now be introducing Cody Plofker from Jones Road Beauty. Sweet, so Cody, before we get kind of started, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're streaming, and a little bit about Jones Road Beauty.
Let me make sure this works. All right, cool. I'm Cody. I'm CEO of Jones Road Beauty. We're a clean, direct-to-consumer beauty brand. We've got a few of our own stores, 10 of our own stores, and then just direct-to-consumer, founded by Bobby Brown. About 5 years old. October will be our 5-year anniversary. We were just chatting backstage about having kids, so I don't have a lot of time between work and business and Q4 coming up to watch TV. But I did just see Slow Horses came back last night, so excited to watch that when I have some time.
Great show. Makes you want to live in London, kinda. So sweet. So Jones Road Beauty launched in 2020, 10 stores. Tell me a little bit more specifically about Jones Road in TV.
So we launched TV, it was actually Christmas Day 2023. So I kind of remember it as January 2024. We had just gotten to the point where, we were struggling to grow, struggling to reach new audiences on Meta. I think we were really good at doing like one thing, and we probably didn't, diversify and reach new audiences soon enough. Knew we needed to. I think I was always a little bit intimidated by it. I had no background. I was just like a, paid social background. But when I started getting into it, found, somebody very knowledgeable, and it just kind of seemed like it made a lot of sense for us. Our audience was on it, our demo was on it. I was actually surprised we didn't really need to, it wasn't like a crazy test or investment. And it made a huge difference overnight. It obviously took a few days, but really in the first month, not only did we see pretty strong performance from it, but all of our channels, we saw a pretty big lift in all of our channels. Meta looked better, percent new visits were up. So it's been a really big part of our media mix, really the last 2 years, sometimes up to 20, 25% of our mix.
Sweet. So within that, right, a quick little word about Tatari. We're a platform to launch and measure your TV ads across all of TV. So that'd be like streaming, linear, and online video, which Cody just chatted about. A little bit more about us and the brands we work with. So we work with brands that are small disruptors just getting into TV, all the way up to massive brands that have been on TV for a while. Long story short, whether you got a $10 million budget or a $20K budget for TV, we'll help you launch and effectively scale across one of the biggest channels out there, which is TV. So a quick word too, we're obviously here to talk a little bit about Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We actually asked all the Tatari brands in our survey recently, are you actually increasing, keeping spend the same, or decreasing spend for Black Friday, Cyber Monday? We actually found quite some interesting stats around this compared to last year. Last year, the big buzzword was all around inflation, those downward pressures. This year is really all around tariffs, what's happening. We actually found that this year, we have more people spending across TV compared to 2024. So within that, a big question a lot of brands have is hey, is it worth me spending more in Q4 when prices are high and sacrificing the seasonality, or vice versa? So Cody, can you talk a little bit about how you're approaching Q4 this year with Black Friday, Cyber Monday?
Yeah, we think a lot about filling the funnel. And obviously our budgets are going to be highest, total during November, but we really have to build demand. And, the majority of people that are going to buy from us during Black Friday Q4 are, it's not their first time seeing an ad. So really comes down to our offer strategy, and we try to have little other promotional moments leading up to it where we can get more aggressive with spend, and then we'll lean into it. We'll just be more aggressive total, and we'll really try to kind of flight our media mix to be a higher proportion of what we'll consider an upper funnel channel, anything video, and obviously TV is a really big part of it. So yeah, pretty much starting now until December, budgets are up on TV. So a quick also word too, right, is what is TV? So how many people in the room say they watch streaming? How many people would say they watch linear TV? All right, a little less, it's okay. If you actually look at overall viewership in TV, it's actually 50-50, around 50% linear, 50% streaming. The joke that I always make to my wife is that I'm never gonna say, hey honey, do you wanna watch linear or streaming tonight? It's really just TV.
But a lot of the times consumers don't even know what that difference is. Sometimes linear TV is actually shown on streaming. So if anybody here watches the NFL, which I'm sure a ton of you do, a lot of those ads are the exact same that you would get on linear TV. So within that, right, there's a lot to be left on the table if you only focus on linear or you only focus on streaming. So Cody, can you share a little bit about how both of these kind of play into your strategy in terms of like linear and streaming and where to pick and choose your spot with both?
Yeah, so we launched on linear. The reason why the CPMs are just so much cheaper, I do think that there are some advantages that you get to streaming that you don't have on linear in terms of audience and targeting. But I think for the CPMs, it makes sense, especially if your audience is on there, and if you do have an older audience, which we did at the time, it makes sense to go on linear. So that was where we started. I think we probably were exclusively on linear for maybe 6 months, probably even a little bit longer. And then we launched streaming when we felt like we got to a place where we were, not totally tapped out, but definitely was hitting some diminishing returns on linear. And so we tested streaming last October, so pretty much a year ago, and it's been on, ever since. The mix has shifted. We're a little bit stronger on streaming now than linear, but yeah, both of them have performed really well for us, and I think linear is a great place to start for a lot of brands.
Sweet, yeah, and we see that with a ton of brands as well. Linear is usually a really good place to start because CPMs are so efficient. Quick word on that, probably like $1 to $5 CPM, so really easy way to dip your toes into TV and see if it works, and then obviously start layering in other parts and other kinds of inventory. So there's actually also going to be some kind of overlap between linear and streaming, which Cody just talked about. Can you talk about how you looked at that incremental reach between each of these channels?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you brought up is a good point earlier about how like there's definitely some overlap, but there's also a big difference. And I think that all the data that we've seen is pretty clear that we're reaching different people on both of them. Just pretty much every data point we've looked at, both in our own first-party data as well as what we get available with Tatari. So I think we believe it's the same thing if you're going to be on different social channels. Yes, there's going to be some overlap, but there's going to be some people who are only on one. And so for us trying to maximize reach, especially like a time like this, we want to be everywhere.
Of course, yep. Sweet. So one other thing about TV as well is it's really not just the impact it has, obviously, just on people that are seeing the ads there, but it could also be a rising tides that lift all boats. So TV can have an impact on other channels like search, social, TikTok, things like that. So can you talk a little bit about how TV is really starting to impact other channels beyond just obviously what you see in a dashboard, right? It could have that, what we call a halo effect across other channels.
Yeah, we saw a really clear impact. So one thing we look at a lot on Meta is like reach and rolling reach and percent new visits. We use Northbeam for multi-touch attribution. And it's definitely a challenge at times, especially at our scale and at our spend levels. And what we found when we launched, so this was again, January 2024, just like our total business went crazy. Where, yes, the Tatari reporting looked good. Yes, post-purchase service survey on TV looked good. But like there was a huge halo effect that was just like nothing else really changed in our business, and overall business was great. But one thing we saw specifically on Meta, our percent new visits was just much higher than it had been before. Really, no other big changes. I just think it exposed us to this this really incremental new audience that didn't happen before. That was like kind of feeding funnel for all of our other channels, as well as giving Meta like a lot of signal of a new potential audience. So yeah, it was again that was the only difference we made in our business, and it was pretty impactful for us.
Cool. And we see this with a ton of brands. I mean, a really easy way to look at this is if you just look at their Google search trends. And so in this graph right here, you can see right when they launched on TV, you kind of see that baseline rise over time, just because so much of the reach and frequency and really the broad kind of awareness that TV is able to give a brand.
We just on that note, we definitely did. We had Google brand search running at the time, and obviously that's one of those things where you only pay if your budget's high enough. You only pay if people click, and the spend went up pretty significantly. Where we were even like, hey, we need to test incrementality on it again. So yeah, it was clear there was definitely just a lot more people searching. And then we have our own stores. We have 10 of our own stores, and there's just a lot of kind of anecdotal. How do you hear about us? Oh, I see you all the time on TV, which is a cool thing.
Yeah, and while a halo effect obviously sounds nice, you obviously wanted to lead back to sales. Awareness is great, but we're really here to talk about outcomes. And so a way you can really quantify what is a streaming halo effect or a TV halo effect is really looking at outcomes, right? So like we saw a 6 boost in conversion rate for someone like Jones Road Beauty. So if you can talk a little bit more about the actual results you see from it, not just the awareness, because it's obviously a big piece of anything you do with marketing. It needs to back out to some kind of dollar amount.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, like the Northbeam increase of % new visits for Meta customers, that almost always correlates with a increase in ROAS and increase in conversion rate. What we find is when a Meta ad is successful, it's reaching new audiences, % new visits goes up, and we're able to kind of give Meta some signal to go find new people. Where sometimes if we're just on Meta, the challenge is it kind of just hits the same people over and over, and those people aren't going to buy and have a good conversion rate if they've seen your ads 10 times. So I think it played a really important part there as well. And I think it just gives you more trust and more credibility. Like there's so many D2C brands now, and everybody knows how easy it is to spin up a brand, and especially with certain audiences, that they are skeptical of scams and things like that. And I think no one believes that a brand that's on TV is you just appear a lot more trustworthy, I think.
Yep. Cool. So we talked about how TV is really measurable, and that might be a surprise to a lot of people in the room. TV has been thought of as this like archaic offline channel. A quick word on how we changed that up quite a bit. So historically, TV reporting took around 2 days to get. We're able to give reporting to brands just like Jones Road on a next day basis. We're able to look at reporting both immediate and delayed. So, hey, did someone actually respond to that ad right away? And then did they come back to the site or the app 3 or 4 days later? The biggest challenge and mistake I see marketers make is they kind of give a little bit of too generous attribution to TV. Our goal with any brand is to figure out, hey, is this actually incremental to their business? And the way we do that is isolating, hey, would this conversion or this outcome happen with or without a TV ad? And that's really what we're trying to solve for over the 300 brands that we work with. So we've talked a bit about measurement, strategy. I want to talk a little bit more about tactics. So Q4 is the busiest time of year in TV, not just because, hey, that's when everyone's buying stuff, but some of the biggest events. The NFL season's in full swing. MLB playoffs are about to start. The NBA season's about to start. Tons of stuff to keep in mind. So I wanted to get some insight from Cody on how you were really approaching Q4, given the tighter schedule across TV, and how you're really approaching it, because it can be really daunting to a lot of brands if they've never really done this before.
I'm going to be totally honest. I don't look at, I'm not the person on my team who's doing, platforms or picking specific shows and things like that. I think that's where I try to lean on people that have a lot more experience and know more than me. So, that's where we work with an agency and we work with Tatari to help with that. But definitely on overall budget, again, just flighting our spend and flighting our performance and making sure that we're reaching the most number of net new eyeballs prior to the biggest moments we have, and just knowing your consideration phase as a brand and when do you want to have this kind of optimal highest level of spend going into a channel like TV, which again for us is starting in October.
Cool. Yeah, and that could be a really challenging part for a lot of brands is where do you start? What programs do I go to? What audiences do I want to look at on TV? It could be really, really intimidating to a lot of brands. So that's where we can come in and help too. We have over 10 years of experience in buying TV, over $3 billion spent, and thousands of brands launched. So you don't have to come to TV from a blank slate. You can really use all the data that we have to help you figure out, hey, should I be on Hulu or should I be on Tubi? Should I spend $20,000 or should I spend $100,000 on my test? These are all things that we can help you plan and build for and even give you expectations. So we work with thousands of different brands over the last 10 years and have a very good idea of what benchmarks you should expect and let you know, hey, this is something that's probably going to work, or maybe we should wait and hold off for TV for a little bit later. Cool. So another thing about Black Friday, Cyber Monday is brands sometimes will actually change their metrics. So we actually asked a lot of our brands, hey, are you going to change your CPA or CPM target as we head into Q4? Are you going to raise those targets, lower those targets, and really kind of what does that seasonality do to impact your metrics? We found that most brands aren't. Around 42% said no, 38% said yes. So Cody, can you give us an idea of how you're approaching this? Are you changing up the way you look at CPMs, media costs, or just overall performance in Q4?
Overall performance, yes. We will definitely run our business a little bit less efficient, again, just leading up to it, filling the funnel. And TV will be a part of that. And we consider it kind of a very hybrid performance and awareness channel. And so we will definitely not hold it to the same exact standards, and we're okay with a little lower efficiency and return on it in those like high spend moments, but we don't always like see that. In fact, as we ramp up, I think because of viewership is going so high, the CPMs that we think were going to happen sometimes come in a lot better, and so often we see like just pretty good overall performance leading up to it. But I also feel, and I don't know the hard numbers on this, but like CPMs are up on every channel, and they don't seem to be as severely impacted on TV for us.
So let's talk about something a little more fun. Let's talk about creative. So we obviously know Q4 is one of the busiest times of year. Creative is a really good way to stand out. Can you share a little bit more about your creative strategy for Q4? Obviously, Christmas, things like that. Always good to put that in the creative. But tell me a little bit more about how you're approaching Q4 creative this year, and if you're doing anything differently.
Yeah, so just like going back a second, one of the cool things about TV, like I think we've been on TV for about 2 years. We've done 2 productions where like we're launching 40 concepts a week on Meta, and it's just like such a grind. It's actually really nice to have a channel where it's a little bit more of like old school advertising, and you can get a year out of a creative if it's a strong performer. So I think that's a plus, and we'll just continue to run that stuff. If it's performed, like we'll continue to do that. We'll make a small tweak and just put on some end cards for a promotion and things like that. And then we'll just kind of determine if we want to do a larger promotion, to something seasonal or a launch. Often what we'll do, I think everyone thinks that their TV ads have to be this like high production quality, big studio shoot day, and I definitely think you should have that. But I'm hearing a lot more brands that are doing more of like kind of like a recut UGC, a little bit more of like their social assets. And there's some really cool things. And I think this is where AI is interesting, is we've tested some of them where you're not shooting net new assets with them, but you can put a little bit of a voiceover with AI. There's a lot of like cuts that can happen, a lot of like borders and frames that can get some of your branding in it to kind of keep it slightly more elevated, take advantage of the full screen, get QR codes on there. So there's a few like AI solutions that we're playing around with that I think is going to help us stretch our budget. And then also like I think some of that stuff can be a nice pattern interrupt from the typical TV ad. So I'm hearing a lot of brands see good performance. So we're doing a lot of that for Q4.
I'm glad you talked about AI because we're at a conference. We can't not talk about AI, right?
Of course.
Well, sweet. Well, thank you. Really appreciate that. We got about 2 minutes left, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to shout them out. If not, I think we're pretty much good to go. Sweet. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.